Today we're looking at a 1948 Custom 8 Packard, and if you're not familiar with the Packard 8 lineup, this is the Custom 8. This is the top of the line Packard in the 8 series lineup that you could buy in 1948. This car is absolutely perfect, and what's not perfect on I'm going to show you, and it's not very much. One of the things you'll notice about a Custom 8 Packard is the increased trim level. All the egg crating in here is part of the Custom 8 Packard. You've got the extra trim down the side right here. You've got the tufted broadcloth interior, which is absolutely perfect. Extra trim on the dash, and the widened faux metalwork paint on the doors. So that and much more, and of course in the back of this car you've got the egg crate in the back as well. All the chrome on this car is original, and I'm going to take a quick walk around and we'll come to the other side in a minute, but let me show you some of the details of the car here. There's very little that I really need to show you because it is perfect. Everything has been taken apart, repainted. The rubber and trim is supple, and if you're familiar with Vaughn's Trim Shop in Greer, South Carolina, they did the interior exactly as it was in 1948. But everything on this car, you look at the door jambs, and that tells the story. The car was repainted in 2012, and you can look at the pictures and kind of get an idea of the quality of the restoration of this car. But every door and jamb on this car is done with detail. The hinges, the handles, there's no excuses to be made anywhere in here. Now, one thing there's a couple of little items that you'll need to note. The top of the glass on the two doors has just a little bit of fogging on the edge. You don't see that when they're up. And you've also got just a little mark here on the dash where there's a little bit of wear on the painted surface. Looked like something was setting up here at one point. But what we're going to do is, let's just start it up for you, and you won't believe this car. You turn the ignition on right here, you use your foot with the starter, and this car's running just like that. It was like a half of a revolution. Take a look at the temperature. Your temperature gauge is coming up. The charging system charges. Oil pressure is good, and our fuel is about 1/8 of a tank. The fuel gauge sticks, so it sometimes is not accurate. So one of the only things that doesn't work. Now, this radio works, and interestingly enough, this car has the pneumatic antenna. So when I push and pull this lever right here, the antenna will go up and down. So antenna up, and of course the radio takes a second to warm up. That radio works, and we can take the button, push it in, and retract the antenna. Now, there are a few things that probably didn't work very well shortly after the car was new, and that power antenna is probably one of them. It works perfectly. The wipers work, the horn works, motor perfectly smooth. We've got a compression test on this motor, and all cylinders are within 5 pounds of each other. That's part of the documentation that we have. And I'll turn the lights on for you. Let's first go with the fog lights here, and we'll go with the headlights. One click is the parking lights, and then we'll click it again for the headlights. But the high beams work, the low beams work, and as you can see, you've got your parking lights, your headlights, your fog lights, your parking lights, and everything works here. The interior dash lights work. You've got your left tail light. You can hear the exhaust. There's no sputtering. sputtering. There's 8 cylinders working perfectly in harmony. License plate light works. Little things you'll have to fix on the car if you don't buy one like this. Tail light working. Everything on the car works. You can see in the pictures, all the rear lights work, the courtesy lights work, the vents work, the heater fan works. Brake pedal, it's a solid pedal right there. No mushiness in the pedal. Brakes work perfectly. Emergency brake works great. I'll go ahead and turn the headlights on just so you can see that too. And the headlights, you just push them one more time, and then you've got both headlights. I've driven this car at night. Headlight number 1, headlight number 2. I notice the parking lights go off when the headlights come on these cars. So anyway, everything works. Now, you might see in the pictures a couple of specks here. These are bug specks right here. These are not chips. So this car has been driven at night. Got a little bit of orange peel on the inside of these headlights. Paint on here in 2012. And if you really wanted to make this car pop, you could color sand and buff this paint. There's a lot to work with here. You could make this a stunner. Now, this chrome is original. It's really not pitted. It could use a cleaning. Little steel wool, and it's just from kind of years of just you can hear the fan belt in there a little bit. That's the fan belt. A little bit of steel wool on this chrome, but this chrome is original. This chrome is perfect. It's not tarnished in any way. Look down the side of this car. Things you notice: the door gap, front to back is perfect, in and out's perfect. The gap does not vary one bit. Same with this gap. You look at the gap on here. The rocker panels, perfectly solid. Everything on this car is as perfect as you can get. The doors open and close like a vault. The trunk, you've seen the inside of the trunk. Again, the exhaust, I've got a couple pictures from underneath, and that's about all I really need to show you. We're going to take this car on a driving video too. So this is part 1, and then we're going to take the car for a drive. You take this thing down the road, you won't believe how smooth it is. One of the reasons it's so smooth is you've got radial tires, reproduction radial tires. These are put on in 2012. If you've driven one with bias plies, you want radials. Trust me, this car floats down the road. It's unbelievable for 1948 how smooth this car is, how quiet this car is. And I've driven it on the highway. I've taken it on an hour trip. It keeps up with the traffic on the interstate. But one of the reasons is because of the overdrive. 3-speed on a tree plus overdrive. When this car goes into overdrive, you can't hear the motor and it just floats. For 1948, this was something remarkable. So I'll demonstrate the overdrive on how that works when we head down the road. But like I said, the car runs perfectly. Runs cool. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it off, and we'll do another segment taking the car for a drive. So there's off. And the other thing too, let me just turn it back on for a second. Turn signals work. You can hear it clicking. You can see the gauge move. And on the outside of the car, the signals work. So anyway, that'll do it for just a walk around of this beautiful 1948 Packard. You need to see it in person. And if you're thinking about one, I've looked at them all recently, and maybe I'm a little biased, but I think this is the nicest one out there. And the price, you couldn't restore this car for this price. You couldn't do the exterior. So anyway, and then there's documentation on the car explaining how original it is, from Greenville, South Carolina. It's never left the state. So there's a history, there's a pedigree here there's things that people would want to pay for that you're going to get with this car.